live.
Is that you're right?
Yep.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello and welcome to the Queensland Epson Professional Photography Awards. This is run by the Queensland Division of the Australian Institute of Professional Photography. And this morning we're starting off our judging with the travel category. It's sponsored by Camera Electronic. Thank you to our sponsors. And my name is Robin Hills, and I'm assisted very capably this morning by Selena Rowlandson. And our judges this morning, to start us off, we have Hilary Warder, Adam Hourigan, Melissa Anderson, Cameron Attry, Mark Duffus, and ready to help us as we rotate through the morning is Kylie Gorman, Kylie Garner, Andrea Thompson and Roxanne Gorman. Can't even read my own writing. That is not a good start to the day. All right, hopefully I shall warm up and we'll be right on track. So judges, could we please have the first print? Oh, sorry, my apologies. We have to do a category preamble. Just to let you know, the travel category, this photography involves landscape, people, culture, customs and history. It may express or reference the feeling of a time and place, or simply portray a land and its people in its natural state. All destinations will be considered in the light of being travel photography, even if the location in the photograph is the same as where the print judging is being held. Entries should communicate some aspect of travel, but the judges will be asked to interpret this broadly. Entries into this category may be commissioned or self-commissioned. This category is for single capture images, and is intended to reward technical and creative excellence in photographing and presenting an authentic representation of a scene without the benefit of creative compositing techniques. There should be no attempt to misrepresent reality by manipulating the image's context, content, or meaning. Cropping the image and perspective correction are permitted. In-camera, multiple exposures and panoramic stitching are prohibited. Polytitches, diptychs, triptychs, etc. are permitted. Okie dokie. First print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 79. And as your scores are quite close together, 82, 76, 77, 76, 82, the print will go for review. No, it will not go for review. My apologies, because it is a single room judging. And so I'm sorry to this entrant. You have worked very hard, I know. And we are able to give you a comment from the judges. And Hilary would like to add something for you.
Hello. Congratulations on the 76. I think it's a good professional... 79, I'm sorry. I think it's a good professional practice. I think possibly if you'd separated the foreground from the background a little better by a lower or higher point of view, I think that would have made this image pop.
Thank you very much, Hilary. Next print, please. Adam, can you just check your score is sent, please? Thank you. And we have an average score of 78. And Adam would like to challenge. Adam's on 83. You're working with two 78s, a 77 and a 74.
This print is subtle in its initial presentation, yet there are real polar opposites within it. There's haziness and then there's sharpness, and there's little stories, yet there's very big stories presented to us. You know, the bold colour in the bottom left corner contrasts with all these tiny little pops of, you know, the way that it's, whether it's been presented or post-product, to really sort of make us focus in on all these tiny little stories that have been really well spotted within what could be quite an ordinary looking scene to one eye, has been really presented out. And I think it's worth rewarding to the photographer for really making us look all around this image and presenting those opposites within the one frame.
Thank you, Adam. And Hilary on 74.
I gave it 74. I'm just I do like all the little stories. I like the little pops of I enjoy the little pops of colour, but my eye is constantly brought back to the boats and the way that it's cropped on the left hand side, and I find that quite jarring to award it any higher.
Thank you. And Melissa, can we hear from you? 78.
Yeah, this image does have quite a stark feel to it, and I think that's a strength to it. I scored it in the professional practice range, and I guess there was a couple of reasons for that. I struggled to find, I enjoyed the composition and the flow of the image, but I did struggle to find a particular focus point that would anchor me, and I did find that there were little elements of colour, but I found it was a little bit chaotic. It didn't direct me as clearly as what I would have liked, and perhaps, so I'm sitting on professional practice, but I'm still listening.
Thank you. Back to you, Adam.
And we talk about the composition and as the strength, as a strength of this image, and I think the chaos is the word here. There are definite opposites. It's pulling you in each direction. You know, there's big colour here, there's subtlety in the other corner, and all that sort of, it's meant to show you all these different things that may not be observed by the first look. It's really taking you around that and showing there is more to the scene than what you might initially look into. I think it's beautiful in its chaos. So I think we can go to a low silver, if that's all right.
Thank you. Adam's score of 83 is locked in. The current average score is 78. Judges, please rescore now. And we have 80, silver award. Thank you. Nice teamwork, judges. Next print, please. Thank you. We have a majority score of 80. Thank you. I'm hesitating because there's a range of scores from 83 to 73. And I was just seeing if anyone wanted to challenge, but if you don't, we will also look for a comment. You happy to finalise the score? Yep, cool. Mark, could you give us a comment, please, for the entrant?
It's actually a nice, like so many travel, you look at it and also wonder where they are and everything else, but also the combination of the space, the design and the people within the space and the beautiful representation of that. and I think that's where it's sat quite nicely. I think people were looking for something a little bit more to take it even higher in scores.
Thank you. And the reason that I announced a majority score is the average score was 79, but because there were 3 judges in the silver range, then by majority it goes to 80. So thank you, judges. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 79. And Hilary would like to challenge. Hilary, we're working with, you're on 88. You've got an 82, a 76, 75 and 74.
Cool. Humanity, my goodness. At first I was thinking it sort of looks like an aerial, and then I realised that it's a block of units, of flats and what have you. And there's cages, cages on the windows. And so I think that as far as a narrative is such a strong thing about here we are in the 21st century, and these humans are living in little boxes. If I could see a person in one of those windows, I would have given it a gold. And I just think that, this is... It's almost dystopian. So I just so and the colour palette, it just works with it.
Thank you. And let's hear from Melissa on 74.
Okay, I really enjoy the perspective of looking at humanity in that range. I scored it in professional practice. I was looking for a little bit more. I was looking for a person. I was looking for a selective colour palette. I was looking for a decisive moment. And I guess that's why I've put it in professional practice. And I looked for a long time hoping, and I may have missed it because there is so much to look at and we have such a tiny time frame. So I'm keen to hear more.
Thank you. Adam wants to add a comment.
Yeah, look, I think, as I said, if we're talking, I don't know if we're talking about silver distinction or silver even here yet, because what held me back wasn't, yes, I went looking for the little stories, and all, but tonally what held me back, because what I'm dominated by isn't by the humanity or by the thing, but by the building. The tone, it's sort of the way it's presented tonally distracts me away from what I think I should be looking at. And even when I went looking for all those stories, all I kept coming back to were these big concrete blocks. There may be a story in that in itself, but I'm not sure if it's still strong enough to get up there. But I'm listening to see what can come.
Thank you. Can we just hear from Cameron on 82?
Yeah, like everyone, I was looking for the human element in there, and then I realised that I didn't really necessarily need to see it. I would get enough of a story coming through from all the little bits and pieces that represent humanity in the way that these people live without actually seeing the people themselves. So that's why I put it in the silver category.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
I think the drab colours used here is sort of relates to the inhumanity of the image, and there is. on second look, when I went up there, you have a look at the different windows, and people have tried to be individuals by the way that the actual frame, the fences on the windows. Some are patterned, some ornate, some of sort of whatever. And I sort of thought, well, here they are. They're living in these boxes, and yet they're trying to be individualistic and what have you. So, and I think that the pops of colour of the clothes hanging up in the windows actually add to the fact that they're struggling with their lives in whatever. And so it's a little call out. So even though there's not a person in there, I think it's definitely worthy of a silver distinction.
Thank you. Hillary's score of 88 is locked in. Other judges, having listened to the debate, please rescore now. Thank you. We have a silver award, 81. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And Adam, thank you. If you could give some feedback to the end.
Yeah, a challenging subject. I think it's a good attempt at being presented, and then and it's nice and sharp. I think it's just the main subject's a little lost tonally in the middle, and then when we sort of look up and we go to the big bright highlight at the top, it's distracting us away from there's lots of nice texture and sort of shape in there that could be maybe better brought out to elevate it to a higher level.
Thank you, Adam. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 81, silver award. And could I get a comment from Mark Duffus, please?
It's a very simple scene that I think has been handled so well to hold all that detail in snow, the clouds and everything else, but still get a beautiful tonal range, and the placement of that spire and where it is and all the elements leading in, I think has been done quite nice. And I think to go higher, it probably cleaning up a little bit of the bottom right-hand corner, and I guess just looking for any other elements to take us further.
Thank you, Mark. And we're going to start rotating our judges. Could we have Mel? You can have a break. And could we please bring in Kylie to join us? Kylie Garner is going to join us. We're just going to keep rotating everyone so that all the judges get a turn and keep us on our toes. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 73. Thank you. Adam would like to make a comment to help the entrance.
I think they've got some interesting characters here, which well spotted and well captured. But I think there's a general lack of sharpness across the front. Like I find the figure on the left not quite as sharp, and even the dog, that lack of sharpness distracts us away. And even the crop, I feel like we've cut the feet off down the bottom, and even a little bit of top. It just feels a little bit awkward. So maybe if there's it's worth sort of looking, maybe pulling it out again, and just watching that that we get the narrative all the way through the frame.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 85, silver with distinction. And Cam, could we get you to give some feedback to what you enjoyed about the photograph?
Yeah, it's a rather incredible scene. There's so much going on. You could spend quite a lot of time looking into this image. So many little stories of a rather chaotic environment with lots of rubbish. And that human element is sort of set to the sides, and you've got this railway track going right through the middle, which kind of is dividing the scene. But what makes it is that bird just flying through the foreground there out of focus. It adds that extra little bit of element.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And Adam would like so that's a talk or a challenge? A challenge, just to be clear. Actually, I am going to change that. We actually have an an automatic challenge, because one judge is 10 points away from the average, and that's Hillary, who's making very good use of the extent of the scoring range, which we've asked her to do. Thank you. Hillary's score is 64. So just to explain to the audience, when it's an automatic challenge, if a judge is 10 points away from the average, the judge that triggered the challenge will speak first. Then we will hear from Adam next on 84, and then one of the other judges, maybe Cam, if we can hear from you after that. And unless anyone else wants to really speak something urgently about the photograph, we will rescore it after then. So you'll only get to speak once, and you will all be able to change your score after the debate. So the current average is 74. Hillary on 64, you get to start.
I'm first. Oh, right, okay. I gave the 64. I found the colour sort of quite bland, and I think there's something going on. I'm not sure whether it's quite sharp enough I think that the excuse me, there's no narrative for me, and that's where the main problem I find for me. I'm just sort of struggling about why the image has been taken, and I think the capture is fairly mundane, and so that's why I gave it 64.
Thank you, Hilary. Adam on 83.
I think the image is designed to challenge that norm of that architectural travel shot that we normally see, everything very straight, everything very crisp, everything, the tonal range reminds me of that sort of desert haze kind of thing. We've got that very sharp, the figure in front, the light pole or whatever it is, it's sort of not obvious instantly is the sharp thing. And everything else has got that haze that kind of lends itself, the tonal range, and even going back into that nice little sliver of hard, hazy light. I think it's trying to represent that sort of narrative through that show of, it's architectural, but it's imperfect all the way through it. There are little, bumps in the lines, and there are little, out of focus parts in the background that lead us back. And I think that's what it's trying to challenge us to see the imperfection in what is normally a perfectly presented image. I definitely think it's worth to come up.
Thank you, Adam. And Cam?
Yeah, I saw this purely as a graphical representation of this building, and I thought the photographer didn't quite get the elements right. I think I agree with Hilary that the colour's a bit insipid. It needs a bit more punch, contrast, and the brightness in the colours would have really pushed it up for me. And also just the slight angles and crops could have been improved a little bit. The lamp, if that had kind of lined up with that horizontal line in the building, that would have really pushed it up for me, and as well as this cropping on the left, that tiny little slither of shadow. It was obviously deliberately done, but I don't know whether that's required on the left-hand side. So just little elements like that would have pushed it up for me, definitely into a sort of silver category. But as it is, I thought it sat well in professional practice.
Thank you, Cam. And Mark would like to add a comment.
This is a scene that is everywhere and anywhere. Every city has a modern version of a version of this structure, and you see them. And the way I think the way this is presented is quite beautiful. That lamp almost represents, things standing out, and the triangle sort of is the starting point, and you read from left to right through the image. And I think, yes, there are subtle imperfections which actually I find quite appealing, because it's not perfect. And the fact that it's something modern and design orientated, that it's not perfect, actually makes it better than if it was perfect.
Thank you. Mark was on 78. So, judges, Kylie, did you want to add anything?
I'll just make a quick comment in terms of the narrative. I'm left with too many questions. I'm trying to find that story, that sense of place, the light, the lampshade. Also, from a technical point of view, I feel like there needs to be a little bit of separation with that horizontal line. So I guess there's a lot of things that I'm looking at that are jarring me, and I'm still trying to search what that story is.
Thank you, Kylie. The current average score is 74. As it was an automatic challenge, all judges are able to change their score having listened to the debate. Judges, please rescore now. Thank you. And it has now scored 76. So it has achieved 2 more points, and every point can be valuable, because at the end of the category judging, it's those extra points to get you to the minimum score of 320, the magic number to become a finalist. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And Adam, to make a comment.
Yeah, a nice simple portrait that's nice and sharp. Just be careful about the technical aspects. The vignetting around the bottom is quite heavy and noticeable, and also those little elements in the background that distract us away from what we really want to see.
Thank you. And Adam, thank you so much for your help. You've been very on the ball this morning. Roxanne, we're going to keep everyone rotating. Roxanne Gorman is going to join us. Thank you. Next sprint, please. Thank you, judges. We have an average score of 74. And could we hear Hillary? Yes, thank you.
Beautiful colour and detail in that roof, and I think maybe have a go at trying to get the perspective a little straighter so that it has a slightly more impact. The fact that everything is a bit skew doesn't quite work.
Thank you. I guess we also have to keep in mind that the building may be like that, and we're not allowed to actually correct in this category. So, correct perspective. Oh, we aren't allowed to correct perspective. Ah, there you are. Yes. You can move your feet as well, Hillary's pointing out. There's lots of ways of correcting perspective. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And we're going to hear from Hillary.
I was struggling with the fact that there's a diptych here, and whether 2 images is actually required. It's a scene that we see all the time these days, is everyone looking at their phones. I think possibly it would have been better if they had all the people at the top looking at their phones, and then the older gentleman in the shot looking up in one image. Whether that was possible.
Thank you. So looking for some more in the sequence. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. Thank you. Could we have Mel, can you just jump back in, please? Thank you. We have an average score of 82, silver award. And Hilary would like to challenge. Hilary is on 87. Hilary, you're working with an 84, 83, a 78 and a 76.
I find this image in its simplicity so appealing. The reason I gave it 87 is this one little figure there who's got his hands up, or he or she's got his hands up, and it's almost like he or she is connected directly with the photographer. It's like they're looking at each other. I love the reference to sort of like the Hindenburg, and yet I know that it's sort of, I think this Singapore, the building in Singapore, and I've been up there, and it's pretty scary because it's pretty high. But I just think that the simplicity and the tones in this, and the fact that I think the photographer's actually got a connection with that one person in the image is the reason I gave it 87.
Thank you. And Kylie, you're on 76. Your thoughts?
So I scored this in professional practice. It has a beautiful sense of simplicity. Definitely agree with that. And there's a minimalism and a sense of scale that I really enjoyed. There's a lot of negative space in the sky, and I guess I'm looking at those little people, but then I keep drawn into the sky, and I kind of want something to be happening in there. So maybe something bigger than the little people. Maybe, it was simply just waiting a little bit longer for a bird to fly into scene. But yes, I love that little character with his hands up. I think that's great, but it's just that negative space and just wanting that little bit more that's holding me back.
Thank you. Mel, can we have a comment from you?
I scored this 84, and I was sitting right on the verge. What I really enjoy about this is I do enjoy that negative space and the way that is so well composed, that we have, that the subject matter is so intricate. There is so much detail in it, and visually it's quite complex, that area. So I really enjoy the balance of where we get this space. And I was thinking when I was listening to the discussion that, we're in the travel category, and this image is representing what travel is, that these people, they've gone to the top of this building to see the top of the world. And that's exactly what this achieves. And I think the strength of this is the particular people. Like, there's people doing the Titanic, there's people with their hands up. It has that going forth, and it has an optimism. The colour palette is delicate, well handled. The print is tonally, it's beautiful. So yeah, I'm happy to go up in a silver distinction.
Thank you. Cam, did Mel steal your thunder about the Titanic comment? Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
Well, I've got another reference. It's sort of like to infinity and beyond, so the Toy Story thing, but because it's sort of like a futuristic sort of Blade Runner-y sort of thing, going off into the future. So it has a futuristic sort of impact as well. So I think sounds like we're all on the same page. So I think we all just get in there and give it a good silver distinction, please.
Thank you. Hilary's score of 87 is locked in, and the current average score is 82. Judges, please rescore now. No. Thank you. We have a silver distinction, 86. Thanks, Mel. Thanks, Roxanne. And next print, please. While our judges are hopping up and having a look at this photograph, just to explain, one of our judges stepped back from judging that photograph, and we thank them for doing that. There's a multitude of reasons why they can do that, and we have 3 very capable judges in the front row that we're rotating anyhow. They can step back because they may have seen the photo before, they may have known who it belongs to, they may have judged it previously or seen it at critique nights, whatever reason. And we thank them for their honesty, and in fairness to the photo, they step back from judging it and allow someone new to step forward. Thank you. We have an average score of 77. Hilary would like to challenge it. Hilary is on 84. You're working with a 77, 76 and two 74s.
Good, I don't mind that. The thing that I find that made me smile is that there's, from what I can see, there's only one woman in that shot, and she's on a phone. She hasn't got a mask on, and she's got a nice shoes and what have you, and everyone else is and she's just completely oblivious to everything else that's happening around her, and so that's what I thought was. That caught my eye, basically, and I really liked the fact that everyone else is just... some of the people are actually looking at her as well. So, yeah, and she's at the front of the queue. Good on her.
Thank you. Roxanne, if we can hear from you, you're in 74.
Thank you. Yeah, I was struck when the image first turned around. I was struck by the chaos of the scene and the colour. There were a few elements that I found really distracting. The figure in the bottom left-hand corner, I was drawn to that straight away, and the car up in the top right-hand corner, and I sort of saw those before I really looked at the figures, and then started to have a look around. I guess I was looking for a more immediate, powerful message, but I'm happy to listen to what people have to say.
Thank you. And could we hear from Mark?
It was a bit of looking. You're really looking for the thing, because a lot of these scenes where it's so busy and there's so, the overpopulated cities where you're just going to jam of people. You're looking for that one element that the photographer has seen, and we're trying to identify with it as well. And this is where it's sort of like, yes, I found the woman on her bike. The shoes are good, but I don't know if they've led us to it well enough. Whether it could have been, is the top too much? Could have been cropped better, but because it takes a while to get there, and I don't think the impact of when you arrive at that point is enough to to take me up into the silver age.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
Thanks for all your comments, and I agree with much of what's been said. And I think that if we made it a square image and cropped out the sides and what have you, I think and maybe a little bit at the top, it would have more impact. And I think the thing that I find appealing is the fact that she looks quite stylish in amongst all this mess, and she's on a phone, on her iPhone, in obviously what's a developing country, and I think it has a strong message.
Thank you. Hilary's score of 84 is locked in. The current average is 77. Judges, please rescore now. And the print score is 78, so it does go up by 1 point. Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 86, silver with distinction. And as you're all quite close together and all seem to be quite happy with that score, I will just look for a comment maybe from Mark, please.
This is, I know, just sort of all going, oh, I thought I might challenge. No. It's one of those scenes where there's actually two scenes where it's like basically this environment, the only tourists that come there are the birds. And you've got urban decay and this disheveled desert environment at the bottom, but all these birds coming together, and the clarity on those birds is amazing. It's like really so clear and crisp. And so the printing, and I think the tonal range, the way that's been reproduced has actually enhanced the effect of the birds in the top half of the frame.
Thank you. Excellent comments. And we also want to thank Epson as our major sponsor for the Photography Awards this weekend. So it's the Queensland Epson Professional Photography Awards. And if you see any of the Epson people around, thank them for their sponsorship this weekend. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 78. I'm just looking for the moment. Kylie, what would you like to put your hand up for? You'd like to challenge the photograph? Okay, so we have two judges that are able to challenge. I'm just looking at the other judge to see if they would like to challenge. No. Okay, so the average score is 78 and Kylie would like to challenge on 85 and you have a score range of 78, 77, 77 and a 73. So take it away, Kylie.
All right, well, initially when we see this print, there's chaos. There's so much going on. There's that urban decay where we've got that sense of place, and we know it's not it's in a poorer suburb of whatever country we're in. But then you see this little girl, this girl walking in the track, and in a way there's something contrasting in the track. You feel it leading into the photo, but she's walking towards you, and there's a sense of loneliness in that chaos. And that contrast really intrigues me. There's people around, there's activity, there's hustle and bustle happening, but she seems so lonely. And the other thing I really enjoyed was that structure that's above her head. And I thought that was very well seen, and maybe the photographers just waited for her to be in front of that, because in the chaos of the photo, I think that helps separate her and enhance the loneliness of that figure. There's so much of this image that I'm really drawn about.
Thank you. And could we hear from Roxanne on 73?
Sure. When I turned around, I was immediately drawn to the central character, looking for a really strong narrative. I loved the leading lines, and it was, leading back to wherever she was coming from. But when I got up to her face isn't in focus. I found it really hard to see the detail in her expression, and then found myself being distracted by elements in the background where some were in focus and some weren't. And I just thought, from a handling point of view, that there may have been areas where they could have looked at that further. And there was a line at the bottom that I felt maybe could have benefited from cropping it up just a little bit.
Thank you. Hilary, to add a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a comment about the fact that she's actually holding a selfie stick, and I hadn't realised that initially. And went on first inspection. So I actually really enjoyed that. So I gave it 77, and I'm actually going to go up to a silver because of that. Because why would you want to take a selfie there? I don't know. I mean, maybe is she a visitor? Is she just on the phone? Is that how she communicates with her family and friends? I think it would have benefited from being cropped off the top and made a square image as well. But thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Kylie, your right of reply.
Yeah, I saw the parts that were out of focus. I'm going to forgive that because to me the narrative is stronger. To me, the narrative and the story speaks so much volume that I mean, initially I wasn't looking for the softness in her face because she's such a lonely character in itself that I wasn't necessarily needing to see her face. So I'd love to see this a little bit higher, even into the silvers.
Thank you. And Kylie's score of 85 is locked in, and the current average score is 78. Judges, please rescore now. We have 80, silver award. Thank you. Next print, please. Our judges are up having a look to make their decisions. We want to also thank our print handlers out the back. I know they're very busy and may not be able to come around and say hello, but Ralph, Ashvin, Tabani, Nikki, thank you very much for your help. And we've got Declan, the sound techie, zooming around, making sure that you can all hear in the room and online. Hello and good morning to our onliners. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. Thank you. Roxanne would like to challenge the score. Roxanne is on 83. You've got an 81, 73, 72 and a 70.
Thanks. There's a boldness about this, and when we're looking at the travel category, we're talking about a sense of people and place, and I think that this delivers it really well. There's a graphic nature where you've got the light and the dark, and when you look into the dark, there's reflections of the scene going on around it. I think it's been really beautifully captured by the photographer. I love that the little figures are on a little journey towards wherever they're going, and I think it's worthy of a silver award. I'd love to see everybody come on up. The weather's fine.
Thank you. Mark on 70.
This is a scene where I think the photographer has seen something and gone, oh, this is incredible and everything else, but trying to get that balance between inside and outside with the reflections and technically hold all that detail I think has been forced a little bit too far to push it beyond professional practice, and the clarity in the bottom of the frame and the footpath and everything else I think has just been muddied up and it's not clear enough.
Okay. Kylie on 81.
I did see the boldness of this image, and what's interesting is I actually didn't get a sense of that the photographer was inside, and now that I look at it further, I can see that he's inside. But what I thought was interesting was that I thought the glass was almost a reflection of the landscape that could be behind the photographer. So I had this sense, while this is what we see is the landscape in front of us, I actually had a sense of a greater landscape that could be going on above, to the right and left, and also behind the photographer, and that's what got me up until in the silver.
Thank you. And back to you, Roxanne.
I think that there's also there's a beautiful symmetry in a situation that's not necessarily symmetrical. You know, both vertically and horizontally, the placement of the figures is absolutely perfect, and I'm willing to forgive all those other little things so much in this category where we're looking to see something different that really delivers, and I feel that this print has.
Thank you. Roxanne's score of 83 is locked in. The current average is 76. Judges, please rescore now. Thank you. And we have a current score, new score of 77. So it did go up by 1 point. Thank you. And we're going to keep our judges rotating. You're all doing a great job. Kylie, thank you very much. And we're going to have Andrea Thompson join us. Thank you. Sprint, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 77. Andrea would like to challenge on 82. You're working with 78, 77, 75, 74.
So beautiful capture right there. The guy's seen the photographer and he's just stared straight at the photographer. What brought me up to silver for this one? You look at his feet. He's got one shoe on there and he's sitting and waiting. And that to me just had a little bit more of a story. Obviously there's a story there with the shoe guy fixing shoes, but there's just that little extra that tipped me into silver. And I'd love you to just bring that up. The colour palette's beautiful. It's sharp everywhere. Nothing is too distracting. And I think it's worthy of a silver.
Thank you. Roxanne, 74.
I can see all that. I'm struggling with a few things in terms of composition and where that character, who does connect directly with the photographer, but where he's placed in the frame. I hadn't quite seen the detail with his feet. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really struggling with the colour palette of there's something that makes it difficult for me to come up into that silver range.
Thank you. Cam, we'd like to hear from you, 78.
Yeah, for me, there was almost two stories in here, two images that could have been captured. And what I would have loved to see the photographer do was concentrate on the gentleman on the left and change the angle, crop out the shoemaker on the right, make use of that mirror a little bit more, and then tie in the one shoe with the shoes in the background there. I think at the moment it's just a little bit too literal and a bit too confusing and mixed.
Thank you. Back to you, Andrea.
Yeah, but look at his feet. Look how he's holding his feet. His little foot's waiting for his other shoe to come back in, and it's just beautiful. Come on, guys, give it a few more points.
Thank you. Andrea's score of 82 is locked in. The current average is 77. Judges, please rescore now. Thank you. We have a score of 78. It has increased by 1 point. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. Adam, could you jump in for us? Thank you. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. Thank you. And we need a comment. Adam. Sure.
A good use of the reflective surface, and really, well done to keep the symmetry. It's quite well through. I think tonally for me, it doesn't lead me through the frame enough. There's not enough narrative, and I'm not being led into what we actually feel that the story is here, and that's what stopped me from going up into silver. But well seen and professionally captured.
Thank you, Adam, and thanks for standing in. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. And Hilary, could we hear from you for some feedback for the entrant?
I think the narrative is almost there. The subject is actually connected with the photographer, but it would be nice maybe to have mum or dad or another sibling or something in that doorway for just a slightly stronger narrative. And I think the obvious vignette doesn't help either. So, good attempt.
Thank you. Next print, please. So, judges, if we could just make prompt decisions would be really lovely, please. We don't want you to rush your decision making. We just want you to do it promptly. Thank you. We have a silver award, 81. And quite close in your scoring, so 83, 82, 82, 78, 78. And Roxanne would like to, Andrea.
We're fighting over who wants to talk. We probably are. I just really wanted to applaud the beautiful soft palette that's there. I mean, the reason I stopped before I walked up to it, I just thought it was just such a lovely scene. There's a really, clever use of reflection, and I just thought that it was a beautiful capture.
Thank you very much.
I would have actually taken this way higher. With the clouds at the bottom, they don't match the clouds at the top. If they were softer and more blue and that muddiness taken out of the clouds at the bottom in the reflection, I would have actually gone a lot higher.
Thank you very much. And we're going to keep our judges rotating. Cam, thank you. And Roxanne, if we can have Mel and Adam back in. Thank you very much. And thank you to Epson, our major sponsor, for the helping us out this weekend and looking after us, exceeding our vision. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 78. And Mark, if you could give the entrant a comment on your thought process.
I think these scenes where we look at basically colour and structure and design, everybody looks at it and you're looking at everything in such, it's got to be so much better to get it into the next level. And this is where it comes down to, for me, it was the chairs. We're counting the chairs, and the one on the right is half cropped, but the one on the left, there's a slither of it, but maybe if it was cropped in a little bit more, the balance would have been better to lift it up a little bit further. And these sort of images, we need that design and structure to go beyond what we see every day.
Thank you for your feedback. Next print, please. Thank you. We have a silver award, 80. And Mel, could you make a comment for the entrant?
There's a very clear, decisive moment in this with the two animals, which will be difficult maybe on screen and even from the back of the room, but there's two little animals just on the little peak that are just coming in and in this beautiful little moment. There's also similarities in this image where it's used that dual balance with the reflection. So you've got a whole heap of pairings of different elements in there. I think it's received a silver award, and congratulations on the silver award. I would perhaps, if you're looking at APPA, maybe look at some of your print handling, maybe making it a little bit delicate, and then I think potentially, it could do even better.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 78. Mark, could we have a comment from you, please?
It's a striking image with very dynamic, those vertical lines and everything else. But the one element when everybody got up and we all went to look at the person in the image, and a lot of things with people comes down to attention to detail, and for me it was the left arm. We're left at a stump. We can't see the rest of his arm, and I think in a silhouette having those details makes it go beyond just being a beautiful image.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And I'm just finalising the score. Yes. Adam would like to give some feedback to the entrant. Yes, please.
I think there's a narrative here that's it's good to be explored, but we really need to watch the handling in post. The faces are sort of, they have this luminescence that the rest of the scene doesn't, and we really need to match that lighting conditions in our post production as to what we have in the capture. So, a good narrative, but just more work in post, better work in post needed.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 84. I think we're going to be having a conversation about this photograph. We have got a score range. Who would like to? Mark, if you would like to take the challenge, we're happy to accept it. Mark is on 93, but also Adam is on 93. And that's why I was looking at you both and you were doing dueling eyes with me. So we've also got an 83. So judges, just listen for a minute, please. You've also got an 83, a 77 and a 75. So it's going to be an interesting conversation we're going to have here. So Mark Duffus, we're going to hear from you first. Then we're going to hear from from Melissa, sorry. And we'll work our way along the line. Thank you, Mark.
This is, all right, we're in travel. I don't know about you, but a lot of 90% of the time we spend when you're traveling, you look up. This is looking up. This is walking into a building, looking up into an atrium that could be anywhere in the world. So it epitomizes a certain aspect of travel photography where we are looking up to see design elements and things like that. Then you take into account the way it's been presented, and they've gone to such lengths to cut the mat around the image to enhance the shape of it. And we are drawn into those four squares in there, and it's sort of like any, symmetrical shape at the top there. You're looking for what is not symmetrical, and that little spot of difference, which is just to the left of those squares. There is just a little bit you going, what is that? And it's left you with intrigue. So it epitomizes a certain style of image that everybody does when they look up, but it also is architectural design, and the shapes bring you in and draw you and take you around the image. So that's why I put it into gold.
Thank you. Mel on 75.
Yeah, and for all of those reasons, that's where I've put it, where I have in professional practice, that I do really enjoy the craft in creating this and seeing it. It is striking. It is a beautiful image that we're presented with. I guess when I was considering where I would place it in the judging score range, I thought, well, what is this telling me in terms of a travel image about a place and a time and their people? And for me, this could be anywhere, and that's fine. The category, sort of allows for that. But I didn't feel that it actually it gave me a strong sense of communication as a travel image, and so that's why I thought, no, it's been well crafted, and it sat in that professional practice for me. I think the matte cutting is very innovative, and but I guess I'm looking at the print, and I just wanted a little bit more communication from there to take it up.
Thank you. Adam on 93.
I like hearing words like striking and innovative, because instantly I think that puts us up well into the silver range. It's with respect, sorry, but we talk about travel. Travel photography is like a window into a place, and this is all about the windows. It's every element is there's a window going into a window into a window, and every part I look for imperfections in the sort of the craft and the tone. And they draw me exactly in where I want to be. And then there's this confusion of scale. How big is what we're looking at? Is it big? Is it, is it small? We don't really know. And I'm actually kind of drawn to the shape of the windows at the top that look to me like a button. And so that sort of gives me this information. Is it small? Is it big? It's so much communication and so much craft. The matte cutting enhances what we're seeing as well. I think it's superbly communicated. Technically every part of the image makes me look exactly where I want to, and gives me any story I want to go to. It's a window into this one little part of wherever the photographer has taken us. And I think it's excellently communicated. I definitely think it's a gold.
Thank you. And Hilary, did you have a comment to add? Yes, thank you.
I gave it 77, and I think as a piece of abstract art, it's effective. I am struggling with the narrative, and I think that if there's some form of human element in there, a little person, or whatever, to give it scale and to give it size, then yes, I think it's a very effective travel image. But other than that, I gave it 77 for all the other reasons.
Thank you. Mark, your right of reply?
Okay, this is taking travel into a part of travel where we go and look at structures. We go and look at places because of what's been built there and what we see there, rather than the people within the environment. And quite often, like me, we try and go there when there aren't people in the environment. But it's a beautiful representation of that place that, like has been said so much, could be anywhere. And I think the design and the structure and the way it's been presented is so original and unique that and that's why I placed it into gold.
Thank you. Mark's score of 93 is locked in. The current average score is 84. Judges, please rescore now. Thank you. And it goes to 88, silver with distinction. It was on 84. Yep. So well done. Good teamwork. Nice listening to each other. Good debate. Thank you. Next print, please. And hopping up, looking, making good decisions promptly. Thank you, judges. We just need to keep it moving. We need a white, oh, there is a cotton glove. Scores, please, judges. Thank you. We have an average score of 86, silver with distinction, and Melissa has her hand high. Melissa is on 93. You've got some company on 92, an 86, 83, and a 78.
Okay. Now it's early, so bear that in mind. I haven't had a coffee yet, but there is something incredibly magical and ethereal. so I'm going to start. The composition to start with is phenomenal. The leading lines that are in here are beautiful. The way that the colour palette gently eases you in is phenomenal. Those soft, you've got harsh lines coming from this side, and then at the end where they're leading you in that inverted V shape, they then become reflective of the ripples, and it is just beautiful and magical. It's like light dancing. Then we look at, the strong shadow, the simplicity, the minimalisation in this image, the choice of colour palette, that there is such a carefully considered colour palette in this image, and how we've got the little red bumps on the end of the frame that then match the red in the clothing. There is so much that is considered, is so delicate, precise, well seen, a decisive moment, and this is in the travel category. So, we have rules that we have to fit to, and this is just stunning, and I believe it sits as a gold.
Thank you. Adam on 78.
Yeah, look, I'm guilty of chronically underscoring here, and I was on the fence. I really was. The ripples is what helps me out amazingly, because it gives me a reason for the sort of, I guess not the muddiness, but the sort of a very blockiness about the figure on the right hand side, and that gives me an explanation. So I thank you for that. I am attracted to it visually, but it challenges me as well, and that's probably why I was a bit shy. I can definitely be listening to reasons. I'll need really good reasons for gold, but easily into silver distinction.
Sure, Andrea on 83.
So in travel category, you cannot set this up. This person the photographer has sat and waited for that person for that exact moment where that shadow is pointing, the little V shadow, and that's just stunning, and it is worthy of an award.
Thank you. And couldn't we also hear from Mark?
I guess the thing that pushes this up into the gold and makes it an original expression is basically the fact if that girl was wearing any other coloured dress, it wouldn't have the same impact. The complementary tones between the blue and the red, and also the design and balance, and the fact that they have paid attention to all the details and got it balanced so well, and the timing so good, and the fact that the red alarms on the right hand side have been left in rather than cropping them out, and also that concrete patch, it echoes the tone of the middle panel on the left hand side as well. So all these elements and thought process, and then the timing of getting that shot, and the fact that if there was too much ripple in the water below, it would have spoiled it as well. So it is a combination of so many elements coming together, and the thought process of the photographer that has created something that is innovative and up in the gold region.
Thank you. And Melissa, back to you for your right of reply. Anything to add?
Do I need to say much more? I think this. When we consider, and when we're referring to the travel category, it's because there are certain rules for people that are listening in terms of the travel category for it to sit here and be validated into this category. But the photographer that has captured this moment has been so precise and so considered. They have such a knowledge of colour palette. They have a knowledge of composition. This is absolutely stunning. The choice of the cold tones complementing it with the orange tones. It is 100% considered, and it is exceptional, and I would love to see it in a gold.
Thank you. Melissa's score of 93 is locked in. The current average score is 86. Judges, having listened to the debate, please rescore now. Thank you. We have our first gold award for the day, 93. And Mel has brought a gold Easter bunny. She saved it all the way from Easter, and I think it's about to be broken open. We're just going to have a blank screen for a moment and just get your tea and coffee orders on that high note. Adam's going, thank you. So if you can just very quickly, if you've got a pen. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the room. And hello to our onliners. We're waving in the ether to you. Thank you, Epson, for your sponsorship of this weekend, the Queensland Epson Professional Photography Awards. This complete weekend is run by volunteers. So there's something like 50 volunteers sitting out the front, all our judges, the panel chairs, all the print handlers, and there's a whole committee of people. So approximately 50 people volunteering their time this weekend for you. So if you happen to see any of the volunteers, please thank them for their effort and dedication. And remember that any scores that you get are also from volunteer judges, so please be respectful and kind to them. And take the feedback and rework your photographs if you didn't like your score, and put in a bigger effort for AIPP. That's how it works. These are for reward, award, and to improve your skills. How am I going, Adam? Yeah? Ah, that's good. I'm feeling like a bit of a DJ here, filling in blank space. Okay, judges, front and centre. Mel. Yep, good. Next print, please. Thank you, judges, and scores, please. Thank you. We have a by majority score of 84, and Hillary would like to challenge, and we're going to accept that. Hillary is on 96. You've joined with Mark on 93. Then you've got an 84, 82, and a 78. So we love having judges with a diversity of opinion. That's why you're all invited. So we're going to hear from you. Thank you, Hillary. Oh, sorry. I am going to stop you. And it is my job to inform you it's actually an automatic challenge because it's more than 10 points away from the average. And Hillary's score of 96. Yes, so it's tricked me because I've got two scores. There's an average score and then there's a majority score. So we're going to take it as an automatic challenge. So you will only get to speak once. Hillary, you need to really make it your best effort first. And then we're going to hear from Andrea next. So, Hillary.
I gave this a gold distinction, and I think it is almost perfect. Just a couple little negative things, just a tiny little thing at the top, the crop. I'm not quite sure whether or not those little windows in between the two things work. But apart from that, it is perfect. And the thing, there is a punctum. There at the top in the thirds here is a little round thing. Everything else is square, and there's a little round thing, and it's like it's a CCTV thing or whatever. And it just sort of the use of the banal sort of. I'm throwing in all the words here. Colour palette and the little boxes. It is a real comment on urbanisation and humanity, and yet there's not one single person in it. It is beautifully seen. It is beautifully captured. It is beautifully printed. I gave it 96, and I want a gold distinction, please.
Thank you, Hilary. And we're going to hand over to Andrea on the opposite end of the score range. She saw it a little differently than you.
I did. But thank you, Hilary. I scored this in high professional practice. Stunning colour palette, and I enjoyed the architecture. Why I didn't go up was I was looking for a story. I was looking for something in the window. It was a few little... on the last building, the line bugged me, and the shadowing onto the building, which took my eye as not so good. But that distracted me, and me not seeing something in. But I do really enjoy the colour, the lines, and it's different. It's clean, which is great too. So yeah, I just needed something from you to make me go up there.
Thank you. We're going to hear from Adam on 84.
Yeah, look, I was in a similar way of thought, and I rewarded it because, yes, we've said beautiful palette, well seen and well constructed. The lines do, distract a little bit at the top. I can see it coming up into silver distinction because of the craft used, but it's that narrative, it's that extra little bit of special sauce that I think we want in a gold image that just is not quite there for me. And the narrative of the empty buildings is well explored and it's well captured here, but I'm not sure for me yet it gets into the gold range.
Thank you. Melissa on 82.
Yeah, I looked at this image and I was looking for a story to begin with. So I scored this 82, and I am happy to come up. I'm still listening as to where I will place this. But what I saw in this image, so then all the detail kind of fell apart. It's quite a soft image, and that distracted me a little bit. But this is actually quite a surreal image. And so what I now find is I can't see any of the detail in it because I'm drawn to seeing different buildings within, if that makes sense. So all of a sudden I'm losing the perspective of where these buildings are because there's all of these different areas, and then none of these lines bug me because I'm seeing it as a 3D element of a completely surreal environment. So I think that's incredibly clever to be able to create that. So I'm happy to come up, but I'm still listening as to where I place it.
Thank you. And Mark on 93.
Okay, the reason why the story, everybody's sort of going back to, the reason why is we look out and the buildings are the story. They are the fact that they've formed this design within the image tells a story about the environment of where they're in. You know, you look out in a hotel room in any, massive Asian city and you will see massive office towers like this, and you look across and you won't see any human. The humanizing part of this is the building peeking through from behind with those two lines coming through and that circular object in there. Finding that, leaving that, and putting that in there where it is at the point of tension at the top of the frame is where this image goes beyond just professional practice silver into gold, being innovative. And there are two little pinpoints across to the left-hand side, which we tried to dust off. But they are part of that element of design where you've got 3 points, the two on the left, and the shift in tonal range from that blue to slightly warmer to the brightest point, which is that vertical strip with those two lines dragging you across, that has created an image that is innovative through its design and looking at architecture and the built environment wherever we go and presenting us something with it, something that's unique.
Thank you, Mark. The average score was 87, but the majority score was 84 because it's a team decision of at least 3 judges in the same score range. So the majority score sits at 84. It is an automatic challenge, which means you are all able to change your scores having listened to the debate. Please do that now. And we have a gold award at 91. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. Could we please be in mind keeping our comments concise? Fabulous use of words, Hilary. Gold star to you. Scores, please, judges. Thank you. We have an average of 71 and looking for some feedback from Mel for the entrant, please.
I think when you look at something, consider that every element in the image needs to pay a rent, and it gives it context. So I think with this image, maybe tell us a little bit more of the story. Look at some of the printing and the file handling, and just give us a little bit more of a sense of a place and time and things like that.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Mel, thank you. We have your scores, and we have a current average of 82, silver award. And if we could have a comment from Andrea.
This is absolutely beautiful to look at. The ship is so sharp, and I enjoyed the colour palette. I would have gone up higher, but the clouds, the muddiness in the clouds took me away from the beautiful image down below.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thanks, Mel. We have an average score of 84. Thank you. Silver award. Congratulations. You see, I've got a score range, and people can challenge, but they may not want to. But I've just got to check that. And could I get a comment from Hillary? Yes, certainly.
There's so many questions I want to ask the photographer here, and you know, is that a sculpture, or is that is it a ruin from a building? Are we in Iraq or Iran or whatever? So you know, it's a fascinating thing. I gave it 88. I wish I'd given it 89 so we could challenge it. So I apologise to the photographer, but it is a beautiful, fantastic questions image.
Thank you, and thank you for being honest with the score that you gave it. And we're going to have a judge change. Cam's going to come in for Mark. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Big effort. And next print, please. Thank you. We have a majority score of 80. And I'm looking, no. Okay, so we're going to finalise that score. And could we ask for a comment, please, from Cam?
Yeah, beautifully constructed image. Presentation's fantastic with the circular mat. All the details there, just really well seen and really well presented. But probably sits really nicely in a silver category. But there's probably not much more story that added there that could take us any higher than that.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 72. And could we get a comment from Mel?
I think with this image, perhaps look for that absolute decisive moment, looking at maybe removing some of the distractions. So potentially the gentleman that's walking out of the frame where there's that heavy dark area, maybe looking at cropping that and just really looking at every element contributing to the strength of an image.
Thank you very much. And we're going to have a church change. Andrea, thank you very much. And Kylie's going to come back and join us. We're just going to keep you all moving around. Next print, please. Judges, we need to just make sure you jump up, pay lots of attention. We're going to leave time for debate. Get your scores in promptly, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. And Adam would like to challenge on 83. Sorry, Adam. Again, we have an automatic challenge, and it's been triggered by Hillary on 66. So at the other end of the scoring range. So good use of scoring ranges this morning. And so we're going to actually accept the automatic challenge. Hillary will get to speak first on 66. Then we will hear from Adam on 83.
I gave this 66 because I felt that the use of the horizon in the middle of the frame, separating the two parts of the image, could have been better. I think there's no sort of leading lines sort of leading me anywhere that I actually really want to go in this image. And I think it's more about the technique than the actual environment. So I would love to hear from what you say, Adam.
Thank you. And Adam on 83.
Sure. I think obviously the technique is deliberate. The palette choice and the brightness in the highlights that gives us again that stark environment that's trying to be portrayed. The horizon line, I feel, separates the two parts of the image. What I see in this image and what I feel is a part of human intervention and then human desolation. Like the power lines indicate power. There's life, and there's even a road hanging on to. There's all this human intervention that goes towards those parts that have got the life in the image, and then there's this kind of deadly-looking finger of the shadow of the pole that points to the death in the area. And I think everything in the image presents us with that contrast that I think is more than just an initial seeing of the scene. It's well crafted, and it's giving us the story and the life of an area. And I think it's worthy of a low silver.
Cam, back to you on 77.
77, and right kind of in the middle of my two fellow judges who've just spoken, and that's where my comments kind of lie as well. I get the leading line coming in with those tracks from the car that kind of stop nowhere is great, and the pointing of the shadow from the telephone pole that leads us back in is also really nice. But I felt that the tonal range was just a touch too bright. Just tone it down a little bit and get a little bit more detail in those highlights would have been really nice. And I don't think it needs the very top of the image as well. Just what to reinstate what Hilary mentioned with the crop in the middle, the horizon in the middle, I should say.
Thank you, judges. We've heard a diversity of comments and score ranges. The current average score is 76. As it was an automatic challenge, you are all able to change your score having listened to the debate. Judges, please rescore now. And it stays at 76. So good feedback for the entrant, though, I'm sure. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. We have an average score of 82, silver award. And Cam would like to challenge on 88. You've got another 88, 83, 77, 73.
What an intriguing place. The building is rather unique. I've never seen anything quite like it. And there's some great little story elements in here with the people down in the bottom section of the image. And those rather unique little green mounds, I'm not sure exactly what they are. Perfect timing with the child that sort of just spread across the two little mounds there. Obviously enjoying the environment that they're visiting and exploring the space surrounded that's presented to them with this environment. So from a graphical nature, it's really beautiful. I love the way that the center little green element in the building is sort of replicated in the green mounds below. I just think there's a lot that the photographer has seen and waited to capture in this image. It wasn't just walked upon and found and snapped. They've spent some time here and really explored the space. So I think it's worthy of a silver distinction.
Thank you. Mel on 73.
Completely acknowledge and respect the photographer has waited for that decisive moment, and they've been very considered in what they've presented here. I put this in professional practice. I did that because I felt compositionally I was really struggling with where to go. I felt that there is so much in this image, and it is very graphically strong in terms of your tonal palettes. There's so much contrast in it that I am really drawn to that top area, and I really have to fight to get down to the bottom. I saw the child jumping on the two mounds, and I thought, yep, that's a great decisive moment. But I'm just finding that I want the image a little bit more simplified so that I'm really drawn into exactly where they want me to look, and that's where I've put it in the professional practice range.
Thank you. Hilary on 88.
I gave it 88, and it sort of has a Lost in Space sort of feel to it, quite cinematic. I applaud the decisive moment. I love the traffic cone. The traffic cone, what's it doing there? You see them everywhere, seriously. And so for me, that that just sold it. So it's. Yeah, anyway, it's a wonderful, wonderful image, wonderful capture, and yeah, bring it home.
Thank you. Adam, a brief comment?
Yeah, really, really quickly, and it's the cone. It signifies the danger in this. Everything, it's sharp, it's angular, it's danger. The people on the other side couldn't give a rat's about what's going on in the middle, but there's danger in the middle of this, and that's what the person in the middle is. That angular structure. It mirrors everything. I was a bit on the fence, but I'm coming.
Thank you. Back to you, Cam.
Yeah, just to address the crop, perhaps. I think the photographer could have played around with the crop and done some different things, as Mel suggested, maybe with the composition, but it would have taken out those other elements of the groups of people, and that would have taken the story back to probably something a little bit too simple for my liking. I think I like the little bit of confusion with the different groups of the people, and the traffic cone definitely ties in with that other little bit of colour that's not found anywhere else in the scene, and definitely worth a silver distinction. So come on up.
Thank you. Cam's score of 88 is locked in. The current average is 82. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a silver with distinction, 87. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. If you're going up to have a look, please do so promptly, scores promptly. We're keeping time for debate. Thank you, judges. We have an average score of 79. And Mel can challenge. She's on 84. You're working with another 84, a 77, 77, and a 75.
There was just something the moment that this turned around that struck the challenging colour palette, the fact that we've got this warm colour in the foreground, which contrasts this flat pollution-inspired background. The honesty in this moment, that the person in the back right-hand corner, directly below whatever that thing is, the drum thing or whatever that's being spun around, and they're splashing in the water. So there's all these little moments of humanity in there from just a normal everyday. I looked at whether I cropped that element on the left-hand side, and I thought, no, if I do that, then it makes this too pretty. It makes it too unreal. It needs that to actually give it a relevance and to anchor that bridge and that structure. So I just find this is such an honest moment with so much humanity, and then it's like it has this iconic hero that is there in completely warm clothing, or minimal clothing, but warm colour tones that contrast the rest of the scene and what's going on. And I would love to see it. It's on 79. I'd love to see it sitting as a silver.
Thank you. And could we hear from Adam on 75?
Yeah, and look, absolutely. I think honest in the pose is probably the word that strikes with me, because I kind of want it to be more, because I don't have the context of what is going on here. So I'm not sure whether this is strenuous. Yes, there's a bit of, there's good definition in that. But the face doesn't match the rest of the expression, and so I'm a little bit lost in the story and the context of what's going on here. I do agree with you about the crop on the left-hand side. I think that was the first thing I went to do, and I think it needs it. I had it in professional practice, and I just need to hear a little bit more about the context of what I'm seeing here and how it represents a silver.
Thank you. Hilary, a comment?
Observation. I think when you're looking at all the individuals, they're all male. So I have a feeling that maybe what's happening here is ceremonial, I guess, and I think it's yeah. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Thank you. Back to you, Mel.
I can tell you that he's using muscles and that he's spinning something around. That's what I can tell you. But I want to know what he's doing. It leaves me that question. Like I was thinking, is it one of those things where you spin that thing around and you throw it? Is it competition where you do that kind of thing? Is it that he's drumming? Is it that he's a street performer and he's performing and this is what the background is? There are so many different options. I just find this so surreal and absurd what he is doing in context of the rest of the background that I'm not really too concerned what he's doing because he's there in that strong pose and strength with that colour palette, that light, you know, as that figure and that icon, and then that completely contrasts the background, and that's what I guess I'm looking at. I feel this does have an honesty. It has this has got contrast all the way through it, and yeah, I'd love to see it sit as a silver.
Thank you, Mel. Mel's score of 84 is locked in. The current average score is 79. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a silver award, 81. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. We have a silver award, 82. And a comment from Adam for the entrant.
There's parts of this scene that are absolutely spectacularly, they're beautifully printed, beautiful detail. I'm not sure about the house on the left-hand side, whether it's adding anything and whether it's actually taking away from all that delicateness and even the bottom of them. So maybe it's a great print and sits well in silver, but could even go higher, I think, with just maybe a little bit of work on the cropping and tones.
Right, and some nodding from the fellow judges, so maybe consider that. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 69. And could we have a comment from Kylie?
I scored this good professional practice. I'm not quite sure on the slant, so maybe just to straighten it up a little bit for perspective. I'm also looking for a figure or a story that gives the sense of reason for this image.
Thank you. Next print, please. And we have an average score of 77. And Mel would like to challenge. She's on 86. You're working with 78, 75, 74, 73.
There's something so quirky about this, you know. It's the irony in this image that the composition leads us purely and solely down to that monkey. Is it an ice monkey? Is that what they're called? Well, the monkey, down in that bottom left-hand corner. All of the people are directing us in. Even the bottom monkey takes us back there, and he holds the whole power, and he's got his eyes closed. It's like you've got these people just statically standing there, taking, you know, pictures, looking, being cold, and he's got his eyes closed, completely calm. He's the attraction, and he holds all the power. And I think it's a really well seen moment and decisive moment to capture him. Even the tonal range leads us directly down to there. It has that you know, that softness, that the softness from, you know, the environment that it's in, where it's cold and the air, and yeah, and I felt we're led right into that person that has all the power and the energy.
Thank you. Adam on 73.
The narrative I get is, come on, do something, and it's kind of reflected in what the print. I want the print to be. I want it to speak to me, like you said. But what it speaks to me of is just big black lines right across everywhere that I looked. I'm drawn so heavily to those. Yes, there's a narrative here that I think as the beginnings of something, but it's just, I think we're waiting for something to happen that never quite gets there, and everybody is waiting for something, whether it's me or whether it's the figures that are still and even a little bit sort of mushy in the background. It just doesn't kind of resolve as much as I'd like it to, but it's a good start.
Thanks, Adam. Hilary?
I just wanted to say that I was struggling with the narrative, but I actually quite like the fact that the humans are behind the fence and the monkeys are in front. And I was worried about their expression, what have you, but I like the circular focus. So, yeah, I gave it 74, and I'd be sort of happy to go up to a silver.
Thank you. Back to you, Mel.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy those strong lines, because to me it sets the division. You've got the monkeys in front, you've got the people behind. I really love the way that it's cropped off just at that shoulder, like when we take, you know, head and shoulder images, we refer to them, and this has strategically been placed at that shoulder line for head and shoulders. So we're brought up with the feet, then we've got that strong barrier, that's the background, this is my area. There's a sadness, there's a passiveness, and there's a strength to this. I think the monkey, we're drawn into him through the tones, and that's why we do have that murkiness and that muddiness in the background, because it's not about those people. It's about that monkey, you know, left hand, you know, front. So I would encourage judges to listen to the argument and evaluate, and I see this sitting as a silver. I'd encourage you to come up to that.
Thank you. Mel's score of 86 is locked in. The current average score is 77. Judges, please rescore now. And it goes to 80, silver award. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. By majority, we have a score of 89. And Hilary can challenge. Of course you can. So Hilary's 95. You've got a 93, 87, 86, and an 88. So we'll hear from Hilary first.
Yes, I gave it 95, and I got very excited about this because this is Trump's America, basically. This is seriously a dystopian. This is hopefully where we're not going, but you know, we've got oil trucks on the right-hand side. We've got American flags in the palm tree. You know, it's not paradise. It's definitely not paradise. And then we've got all these shoes hanging up on these thing, you know. And I know that. Well, I don't know, but apparently when you throw shoes over things, that's where the drugs are. So you know, apparently. so. So I gave it 95 because the horizon's dead smack in the middle again. I would have liked it to have not be there. That's my only reservation for going gold distinction. But come on, guys, let's get it there.
Thank you. And let's hear from Kylie on 86.
Look, everything you described there is pretty much why I put it in silver distinction, and it's not going to take me much, I think, to get up to gold. There's a sense of quirkiness in this image. The tones are beautiful. The feeling of destitution, drought. Yeah, there's not much. There's not much there I can fault with this, so I'll probably consider going up.
Thank you. Mel, oh, sorry, Adam, did you want to?
Yeah, if that's okay. Look, I'm glad you said about, because I actually had this pegged as a bit of a humans versus nature kind of thing, because look at how the humans have destroyed this bit on the left, but they can't destroy that palm tree. I mean, there's a couple of flags, there's a couple of shoes in there. It still looks, you know, good. It's nature's way of saying struggling against thing. But then when you relate that back to that societal sort of issue and the flags, how they relate, I'm absolutely all in on that story. I need a little explanation about the little streaks that come in. Whether I know that's sun flare, but I keep seeing those and distracted away, and that might be the only technical aspect that really draws me down. Otherwise, it's just amazingly seen and presented. So yeah, keep going.
Thank you. Cam, briefly.
Yeah, I think those streaks are probably just jet trails, which add to the whole story a little bit. But what got me initial impact was, I just saw it from sitting back here that the building was in decay, and when you get up close, you see that it is actually the shoes, and that kind of represents, you know, consumerism in America at the moment, and is that going to be the decline of society, and so there's so much to it, and yeah, I underscored it.
Thank you. Mel, a 93.
I think the colour palette in this is so well handled that we have so many different aspects. So, you know, when we're talking in gold, and I guess we're looking at you're in gold distinction. So I'm presuming that's where you're looking to take this. So, you know, I'm looking at, for an image that has so much context, and it has, you know, from oil truckers to, you know, mountain ranges and all of this sort of thing, but it's not done in a way, it's done in a very simplistic manner in the way that the technique has handled. So I think the technique in this absolutely nails it. Hillary, can you move? Thank you. What I particularly love, when you were talking about the horizon, I love the horizon dead centre, because it's challenging, it's confronting us, and that's what this image is meant to do. This is a pretty image, but this is an image that is meant to make us think. I particularly love those shoes and how that is dead centre, just on that horizon line, just above the shadow. So well placed and so well crafted. So yeah, I'm obviously in gold, and I'm listening, and yeah.
Thank you. Back to you, Hillary.
I like what you said, Cam, about consumerism and what have you. You know, why are people doing this? I mean, you know, it's because shoes are made in China and India for next to nothing, and people just throw them away. I mean, it's just unbelievable. All this image needs now is a traffic cone, I reckon, in there somewhere. But anyway, no, it is absolutely fantastic. Definitely worthy of a good gold or even gold distinction.
Thank you. Hillary's score of 95 is locked in. The current majority score was 89. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a gold with distinction, 95. Congratulations. I think the gold bunny is going to have to be shared. Thank you, judges. And we're having a judge change. Adam and Kylie, please, for Mark and who have I got over there? Roxanne? Roxanne? No, not Roxanne. No, sorry, not. Thank you very much, judges. We're just going to keep you all rotating. Next print, please. Hillary, can you? Oh, yep, got it now. Thank you. We have an average score of 83, silver award. Thank you. And Cam, a comment for the entrant?
Yeah, great capture. I've seen these children playing in a rather dusty environment. It just tells them a lot about where they live. I think possibly if the entrant looked at just the tonal range and some areas which have been burnt in and lifted up, if just work on that technique a little bit more, it could go a little bit higher.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Scores, please, judges. Thank you. We have an average score of 83, silver award. And a comment from Mark.
This is a great example of the human impact on the natural environment, and the spotting the car there then has you looking for all the other human elements that are in there with the other tracks and footprints and everything else. So I think it's well placed with the car where it is and balanced with the tree.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. The average score is 68. Thank you. And could we have some feedback for the entrant from Hillary?
I think the use of the selective colour doesn't necessarily add to the story. It's sort of trying to pretty up something that necessarily wouldn't be. So I think that maybe sort of black and white, straight black and white would have been better. And a slightly different point of view so that you can actually see what's going on.
Thank you, Hillary. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 78. Andrea would like to challenge on 87. You've got 78, 76, 78, 69.
Lovely. Beautiful colour palette here. And when you talk a beautiful colour palette in a place where these guys are obviously on their break from doing probably a horrible job, I really enjoy they're all doing their own thing. There's a couple on their phone. There's a guy taking time out to read a book. The guy on the end is what tipped me over into awards. He's thoughtful. We have a beautiful story here. There are a few technical issues with the muddiness up the top, but I still think we're in travel category. This is a story, and they've captured just that moment with that guy on the end. I'd like you to bring it up to a silver.
Thank you. Can we hear from Hillary, 69?
Yeah, I obviously, I enjoy the repetition of the fellows sitting there with their knees and what have you. I think obviously the photographer has enough time to actually. I don't think this is a decisive moment, and I think that possibly if the photographer had more time, which I think he probably did because their break's probably 15 minutes or something, or she, sorry, that they could have actually got something that had a little bit more impact with what exchange between the two of them, or what have you, or complete boredom on all four of them. But so I think that would help.
Thank you, Hillary. Did anyone else have anything to offer? Mark, a brief comment?
I guess there also is the element, and you're also looking for design and the structure and way they've been positioned and everything else. The four and the evenness of it, but then the balance with the guy on the right with his hat on and he's paying attention, like he's still on duty, but he's obviously on a break, so he's a little bit more diligent than the other guys who are distracted by their mobile phones, which is a bit of a first world meets third world sort of aspect as well. So there's a few underlying tones there that could be read different ways that sort of will probably get me up a little bit.
Thanks, Andrea. Your right of reply.
Thank you. So I'm hearing that you guys are seeing a story here. There's something a little bit more than what we normally get. It's professional practice, yet we've got a good capture, and we've got a really thoughtful guy who is not zoning out and going into whatever world those other guys are, but he's actually having some thoughts, and that's why I think it should go up into a silver.
Thank you. Andrea's score of 87 is locked in. The current average score is 78. Judges, please rescore now. And by majority, it goes to 79. So good conversation. And why I'm announcing by majority, the average was 80, but it is a team decision, and 3 of you are still in the 70s, so it stays at 79. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. Scores, please, judges. Thank you. We have an average score of 84. And Mark is chafing. No, you just need to do it through here. Thanks, Mark. Thank you. We have a score range of 92, 87, 82, 82, and a 77. And so we're going to hear from Mark first.
This is, and I will say, first up, that the print that's been reproduced is actually really gritty and sharp colour. So it's not as subtle. It's very in-your-face colour, tone, and the rendition, and even a little bit, subtly into grain there as well. But the most amazing part of that is that we produce this, modern piece of artwork that represents all these people and where they're focused, and the shifting looks and expressions from everybody across the frame there is just beautiful. And to capture that, because this is single capture, so nothing's been composite, nothing's been put in, this just happened in front of the person. And to get all those people and seeing all those people in those positions at that precise moment, I think is a photographer who has seen and captured it purposely and so well done. And in such a busy environment, you are drawn into those expressions of the mother with the pram looking across the child who's dithering, just wandering across the crossing, and the bike rider looking across, and then the businessman to the left. We have all the elements of the social environment there, and presented so beautifully in such a stark, colourful modern world.
Thank you. And could we hear from Mel on 77?
I really enjoy the interplay between that front level. So, the story that we're talking about, the lady and the engagement with the child and the bike rider, and the bike rider is quite, majestic. I actually struggled with the brightness and the grittiness, what you're attracted to. I actually found that for me, it detracted. I really had to fight to be able to see those stories and to find that, because I was being drawn into the red building in the background, and it was just competing with so many different elements. And so that was, I had it in professional practice, high professional practice. I do agree that I think that storyline is great, but I would have loved to have been really isolated into that story, whereas at the moment I do find that, I'm probably out on my own, so I'm listening, but I do find that I really have to try and focus to find it.
Thank you. Cam on 82.
Yeah, and I agree with some of those elements, Mel. I think if the top third was cropped off, we didn't have that bright building and that bright highlight in the sky, I definitely would have been up in gold. I'm still listening to Mark. I love the interplay between all the characters in the foreground. And what I didn't notice initially when I looked at it was that the woman on the bike has a child sitting behind her. You can just see the two little feet sticking out the side, which is another little element that tells that story. So yeah, I'm listening, Mark. I'm on 82. I'm considering going up, but I don't know whether I'm going up to gold or silver distinction at this stage.
Yes, Hilary?
I think that there's the gritty thing. I think with the mother with the thing over her face, whatever, pushing a pram, this is obviously her child in the middle of the thing without a mask and in the middle of the road. So there's a nice sort of gritty sort of story there with that.
Thank you.
Bring you back.
Back to you, Mark.
Within these images, there are always the human element and the structural design that bring everything together. Though the bright element and the bright orange building up the top are other elements that draw you down, along with the perspective of the street and that writing that draw you into reading. So it's an image that basically, from a structural point of view, design point of view, brings you all into the human story. And I think it all ties together and basically adds to the innovative nature of the image, which brings it up into a gold.
Thank you. Mark's score of 92 is locked in. The current score is 84. Judges, please rescore now. And it goes to 88, silver with distinction. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 89. And Hillary would like to challenge. She's on 97. You've got 3 88s and an 84. So, Hillary?
I know when image turns around, you've got to sort of go up quickly and what have you. But I sat back and I thought, wow, and I sighed. I thought, wow, this is so beautiful. And it actually has so many comments because I gave it 97. I wanted to see the feet of the man or the woman who's pulling the camels. That's the reason why I gave it 97, not 100. I walked up to there wanting to see someone with a mobile phone taking a photo, and I think they are. They're taking a photo, and it's presented so beautifully, so simply. Maximum black, maximum white, silhouette, absolutely striking, gorgeous, beautiful image.
Thank you, Cam, on 84.
Yeah, I was a bit timid. I'm listening to the comments. I didn't quite get that little story with taking the photo. That's good. I like that. The other thing is it's actually not maximum black and maximum white, and that's something that I really like. There is a softness to that white in the sky, and there's also a tiny bit of detail in that foreground. You can actually see the highlight of the dune in front, which is actually really nice and tells the story a little bit more. So I'm definitely listening.
Thank you. Andrea, 88.
Stunning. Absolutely. Story, we've got everything here. It's travel. They've got a long way to go, and it's slow and it's happening. That is just beautiful. Now, what didn't take me up into gold was, yes, there's foreground, and you guys said that you liked that, but it actually distracted that line across the print for me. It actually took me away from going up to gold.
And Mark, also on 88.
Just a quick, 88. It was the resolution or the resolve of the silhouettes, in that the fact that the light has wrapped around them and actually broken the solid nature of their silhouette, that I'm trying to decide whether that goes up or stays where it is, as to whether would that have made it stronger or would that have made it worse.
Mel, briefly.
I had a look at my little sheet. So I'm going to go up to gold. I'm on 88. I think I was a bit timid. I'm completely with Cam. I absolutely adore that foreground. To me, the craft required to be able to control that, just to give us that hint that this goes on, I think is phenomenal. So that sits in gold with me. I think the light in the background, to me, that gives it that harshness of this climate. This envelops us, and it shows us this environment that it's in, that it's meant to be harsh. I particularly, so we look at the composition where they have chosen to place these people, the rule of thirds, right, having the people there and then having that final mound on the other, rule of third. It's very cleverly crafted. It has both technical skill and craft, but then it also has all of the storylines that you can put on it about, journeys. And so this is a very sophisticated image, and I believe, I'm going to go up to gold.
Thank you, Mel. Back to you, Hillary.
Excuse me. One of the things that comes back to me is the fact that it's a comment on tourism, and for me, and it's just beautifully crafted. And because, hang on, I'm getting really excited. So the person that's actually pulling the tourists, I'm thinking they're tourists because they're taking a photo, but has their head down and is just whatever. So, and it's uphill, and so that's what I see. It has such a strong narrative, beautifully simplistically put.
Thank you. Hillary's score of 97 is locked in. The current average score is 89. Judges, having listened to the debate, please rescore now. And we have a gold award, 92. And the entrant gets one of Mel's gold bunny ears for that. Thank you. Next print, please. Scores, please, judges. Thank you. We have an average score of 85, silver with distinction. And Hilary would like to challenge that. Hilary's on 91. You've got an 88, 87, and a 77.
I think that this is a completely sort of man-made environment. It's very plastic. It's very bright, primary colours. It's set up for all these people, and yet there's no one in it, and except for the little guy in the little car here. So I think it's extremely well seen, and even though I find the colours jarring and plastic and horrible, I just think that it's actually a really effective use of colour.
Thank you. Mark on 77.
I was left wandering around the image. Yes, effective colour. Singapore is around this event, the Singapore Grand Prix. They actually start setting up 6 months ahead. So it's quite a long process, and the structures and everything else they put in place, and a lot of these elements within there, and this is why I'm looking around the image, going, yes, apart from the golf cart going along the track, it's very busy. It's very. You don't know where to go. Is it about the golf cart? Is it about the fact that we have this big green belt with all these tents and marquees ready for people? There wasn't a resolve to the image as to where I should be going.
Thank you. Andrea, 88.
Yeah, I absolutely think this is worthy of at least silver with distinction. This is such a unique perspective of a shot taken from above. All the lines are perfect. It's got the man-made stuff, and even the waters, you can see the ripples. So for me, it's very pleasing on the eye, all of the lines. The colour's bold, but that little golf cart whizzing around where the racing cars go just tipped me over. And I think it's worthy of you guys coming up a little bit.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
So I didn't realise it was Singapore. I saw Sing. I was thinking it was for a concert or something. So there you go. And then I realised, yes, okay, so that's the starting thing. But having had a brother who's lived in Singapore for 10 years, I know exactly what the Singaporeans are like and how it is such a planned thing. Because I've actually been in Singapore when they've actually done this thing or when they're preparing for it. So and knowing what the culture is like, I think this represents Singapore extremely well. So thank you, Mark, for bringing that to my attention. And I think it's fascinating that there's not one person in it apart from the little man. So, yes, I think I've given it a gold for a great reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Hilary's score of 91 is locked in. The current average score is 85. Judges, having listened to the debate, please rescore now. Thank you. And we have 87, silver with distinction. And Mel, we're going to give you a little break. Thank you. And Roxanne is going to join us. Thank you very much. And next sprint, please. Thank you. We have a silver award, 81. And could we have a comment, please, from Cam? Thank you.
Yeah, great scene and really interesting location. What I loved about it was the monkeys all in the trees, and then you got the gentleman sitting there as if he's a monkey as well, same position. And then you look at that animal on the ledge, and you think it's another monkey, but it's actually a dog, which is just brilliant. So it's another little thing that you find when you get up close. So great scene.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thanks, Mark. Thank you. We have an average score of 73. And could we get a comment from Roxanne, please?
I can see with this image the photographer's looking to play with the reflection a little bit, and I just think when you're stepping up to it, it's not necessarily. I'm really struggling to see what is being achieved with this particular narrative. Yes, it's a reflection. Yes, it's been captured, but I cannot see, I guess, the real story behind why they've captured that sign or that building with that mannequin in that window.
Thank you. Yes, Mark.
Somebody might have missed. I'm presuming this is in Florence. The shirt is Take the Risk. So you're in an amazing European city and they're window shopping and looking at a bag that says you've got to love that bag. So this is the travel versus shopping dichotomy.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 79. Mark would like to challenge it on 87. You're working with an 83, 78, 75, 74.
This is a beautiful representation of a so well-known Australian landmark in a unique fashion with sort of, we're looking at so many angles, textures, light, colour that are brought together. Even the inclusion of the orange with the blue sky, the complementary tones there, and just the sharpness and the beautiful printing that it's actually, I think it brings it into the award range for being a representation of something that is so well known and so photographed, and this is a unique presentation of that, with looking at the underbelly, the external and internal structures of a building that we all walk around so much.
Thank you. Hillary, 74.
Yes, I applaud the different point of view for this. I am just hoping that the photographer can go back and actually photograph it at a different time of day, because I think that the light here is doesn't reflect it in a best possible way.
Thank you. And Cam on 83.
Yeah, I think potentially if it was a different time of day, you may not get all that shadow detail in there. I like the contrast that we've got and the way it's been handled really, really well. Shadow detail, highlight detail, the colour harmony is really, really nice as well. So also reward the photographer for making the print this big and not be tempted to print it down minimum size, because all that detail and sharpness is there, and it's enhanced by that bigger print.
Thank you. Back to you, Mark.
A different time of day wouldn't give you that impact with the light and the reflections on the glass side, and we had that balance with the blue and the orange. If it was a different time of day, it would affect the impact of the reflections against the underbelly concrete structure of the image, and I think that's what's lifted it into this, for me, the silver distinction.
Thank you. Mark's score of 87 is locked in. The current average score is 79. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a silver award, 83. Nice teamwork. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And Mark would like to challenge. Mark's on 82. You've got quite a diversity of range on 76, 73, 72, and a 67.
Okay, so this is a representation of cultural lifestyle and just the conflicts and things that have also been come to light in the last 5 years with the LGBT. I never get that right. LGBTQ as well, community and everything else. We have. I'm making the presumption just the way they are laughing, giggling, and holding together a gay couple in the centre of it in a fashion district. You know, you got this beautiful still representation of the dummies and the mannequins on the right. You got the busy, hustling life of people running by with food products and everything else. There's movement, there's stillness, and it's sort of the whole three there in the centre that are the focus of the image that represent that community with that cultural in that cultural environment. All right, maybe some of the could have been printed down a little bit. Yes, there is movement. The sharpest guy is the guy who is looking up to the other couple, but I think the emotion of the gay couple is reinforced by the fact that they are not totally still and they are laughing, and it is a decisive moment.
Thank you. We're going to hear from Cam on 67.
Yeah, I didn't quite think that it made it into professional practice for some of those things you just mentioned with the tonal range, the highlights are a little bit blown. Compositionally, I thought it was a little bit haphazard as well. I can sort of start to see that storyline you're trying to pitch to us now, Mark, and I'm listening a little bit more, but I think I'd need a lot more convincing.
Thank you. Can we hear from Andrea on 76? No, we're not Andrea. It's Kylie. Sorry.
So a few things I'm struggling with is the overall, I just feel it's a little bit flat, the colour tone. So I would love to have seen it just brought up a little bit. The focal point is more on the man looking up and the lady or man, the lady with a hat. So, but I feel like my eye is drawn to the presumably gay couples, and they're a little bit soft. So I'm struggling with that a little bit compositionally. Again, I'm drawn to the lady, the movement in the front on the bike, which I don't necessarily think she's an important part of the story. So there's just a few things I'm struggling with to bring it up to silver.
Thank you. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, so this is where the presumably gay couple are the mid-tone in the image. They are the balance between the highlight foreground to the darker background. And that's where you go through and you read, and there are all these elements around encircling that couple, from still to movement to, the guy pulling up his pants as he walks along, which is sort of like the whole capture of that movement and all the different elements to place them in, and getting that emotion from that couple at that precise moment with all those people in motion, I think is what brings it up into the silver range. Yes, there are, maybe it could have been printed down a little bit better, but I think the story goes beyond that.
Thank you, Mark. Mark's score of 82 is locked in. The current average is 74. Judges, please rescore now. And it goes to 75. So you never know. 1 point can help. Thank you. And could we please have a blank screen? Thank you, judges. And that is the end of that category. Can I just read out? We're going to take a 5-minute break, which you've earned well. Thank you very much. Next up in this room will be nature/pet animal. And pet animal, it's called, this category. And we'll need Adam, Roxanne, Kelly, Mark, Hilary, Francis, Colleen, and Cam. So 5-minute break. See you back in 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our category sponsor. This was by Camera Electronic. Thank you so much for sponsoring that category. And we'll see you back in 5 minutes.